So welcome you all, dear friends from the industry, the APC members and the BSL members. I welcome the entire fraternity of the garment industry to this grand launch of the Good Earth Commune. As the name suggests, friends, this is a sustainability marathon initiated by AEPC, which is Apparel Export Promotion Council, and the BSL together. And this particular initiative has been launched appreciating the fact that India has been one of the front runners of the garment sector in the world. And over a period of time, we have been taken over by my competing countries, and India needs to do a lot to perceive and understand the brand image of the country. And wherein there is a great concern amongst the global buyers that sustainability is now counted by one of the major pillars of the apparel export business. And it is actually acting as a great tool. We appreciate through APC and BSL initiative, friends, that India offers to the world a competitive value chain solution right from the farm to fashion. And we give a competitive edge towards efficient implementation of the sustainability throughout the value chain. Now, this particular initiative is appreciating the fact that most of the manufacturing industries in India are focusing on the way to reduce their carbon footprints, their energy consumption, their water consumption, their packaging waste, and the overall effect on the society. And the key areas that they are currently working on is saving about energy, saving water, working towards getting more greenery in the factories, maximum use of natural resources. But the biggest challenge that these companies have invested so much into sustainability is that the world wants to see the efforts taken by Indian companies. So with this opening remarks, this initiative is all about giving all these companies a global brand presence and let the world know what the Indian garment industry is working towards adoption of sustainability. I would request the BSL team to let's play a small introductory video to explain more about this initiative and what we are together under Good Earth Commune umbrella intends to do over a period of next 3 to 4 months. think this is a very, very introductory video, which is self-explanatory, friends. We appreciate the fact that the cause of sustainability is becoming a major issue in the global market, and it is a high time for India to gear up on this particular cause. We take up the ESG together, and to take this forward, I would now request Mr. Swaminathan, the chairman, and supporting. He's been visionary towards this initiative. We all thank him for supporting BSL to practice what we preach, basically, and while contributing to this whole daunting mandate of implementing a community-based programs aimed for industry development, now with collective efforts of Ministry of Textile, Ministry of Commerce, with APC now together joining this drive. Sir, your opening remarks will be really encouraging for the industry, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna. It is indeed my pleasure to be here on this occasion. It is indeed a great opportunity to share my thoughts as well as share the vision of BSL on this occasion. And welcome the members from AEPC and BSL for this event. And we wish this event makes a beginning in terms of bringing Indian apparel industry as the leading adopter of sustainable practices in the world. And the reason why I say this is that India has a heritage to be sustainable. It is not that we have been historically a very sustainable civilization. I recall my childhood days. I don't come from a big town. I come from a small village. We used to use our water very responsibly. Our food, the way we eat our food, maybe our dispose of our food has been highly responsible. And it is not, we are not making it up for the rest of the world. We have it in our blood. So it is indeed, I think it will be appreciated by the world that India, who has been leading these practices, is bringing the sustainable practices. And I would say, when you recall what has happened in the last couple of years, COVID has taught us something. When environment reacts, it reacts equally for everybody, the rich and poor, the powerful and the common man. It is absolutely equal. We are leveled. It has a level playing ground, and we have all realized that. And it is important when we all bring this sustainable practices, so that we leave the world a sustainable world for our children. What I would say, when we were in COVID, when we were having COVID as haunting us, we were not worried about whether it was poor, it was rich, but we all tried to pitch in and save humanity. And it is in the same spirit. I urge the industry to bring sustainable practices in the apparel industry to be one of the leading sustainable manufacturing region for the world. I would say that BSL, I think of 3 or 4 key messages. One, I would say use of sustainable raw material is one of the key change we should all bring in. When you look back and when we look back our handloom industry and the craftsman handcrafted products which India used to make, which has been taken over with industrialization over a period of time, it had slow fashion was at the core of handlooms, how the products were made. And we couldn't make huge number of products at one go. It was slow, and we could make limited quantity, and that was right for the consumption of people. And I believe a handloom industry, handlooms will become. We need to revive them to make sure that we bring slow fashion back to the agenda of the luxury brands in the world. And we need to carve out a niche for ourselves in the slow fashion, and with our handloom and handcrafted products. This really, what it does is it brings slow fashion into the corporate boardrooms of apparel organization. It also brings in livelihood for craftsmen so that these practices can survive in the next century. And once it survives, I think it would probably one of the niche luxury apparel of the world. Second, I would say we need to also bring in sustainable usage of material in terms of deploying recycled material, using compostable material in our packaging. This is another area which the organizations need to drive, and we need to create capacities and products which can be used for our packaging even in India and the rest of the world. The next agenda would be to have green production processes. We saw the video where we have been the textile industry, I would say, is one of the leading polluters in terms of in the world, and also in terms of carbon emission. One of the leading, if not the highest. I think we need to make our manufacturing processes greener. We need to bring in sustainable effluent treatment practices so that we just move away from simple law enforcement compliant mindset to make sustainability a practice for us in the organization. We need to report, just like report financial results, we need to report sustainability scorecard, and this needs to be driven with clear timelines for all our organizations. It is very important where just wealth creation is not enough for us. We need to live a world where our children are able to drink the water where they live. It is extremely critical that we take this agenda as one of the key agenda, and I would urge the government to bring in advocacy in this domain and also bring in a level playing field for all the manufacturers, so that the manufacturers who are sustainable are not disadvantaged just because they are having a sustainable practice. And the third one I would say is about creating sustainable, not just about sustainable organizations. We as individuals need to practice sustainability in our day-to-day life, and make us each citizen of the country need to be champions of these. And the fourth we would like to play a part is in the creating an education of about sustainability across the industry, across the various stakeholders, to bring in sustainability as in the core agenda of organizations, and we become sustainability champions of the world. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a slot to share my thoughts, and all the very best for the session.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed an encouraging start of this whole initiative. And to take this forward, I would request Mr. Gautam Nair, who is the chairman export promotion, and it was his brainchild to introduce this whole cause to the industry, and also to make an ISA initiative at AEPC, which is Apparel Industry Sustainability Action, which was launched in the last month of November last year, where we brought in a lot of industry members. We created a sustainability advisory forum with all the technical experts on board to share their experiences. And now AEPC would be happy to take it forward with the support of the BSL. In fact, a very strong support of the BSL members in the benefit of the industry at large. To explain more about this, where do we stand right now and where do we vision it forward, I request Mr. Gautam Nair from AEPC Chairman to speak to us.
Thank you, Dr. Tanuja. Since I've been on mute for some time, I hope you all can hear me.
We can hear you, sir.
Am I audible? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Dipali Goenka, Chairman, Wellspun Group, Mr. Swaminathan Ramachandra, Ms. Tanuja Sinha Roy, Ms. Subhida Chopra, the other esteemed members from BSL, my colleagues from AEPC, and friends from the industry. First and foremost, thanks to all of you for joining us at this launch of the Good Earth Commune, a sustainability marathon initiative by both AEPC and BSL. The word marathon is carefully chosen. This is not a 100-meter dash. We're in it for the long haul, and it's going to take time to get our act together and move the sustainability movement in the direction in which we intend. We heard Mr. Swaminathan. We saw the film today, which talks very truthfully about the great damage this industry, which is so important to us, the textile industry, has done wittingly or unwittingly to the environment. And we owe it to our industry, we owe it to our future generations to correct those witting or unwitting misdeeds of the past. It is not just a moral imperative. Considering the damage which is being done to the environment, green transition is a top priority for Europe, which is one of the most important markets for Indian garments. The European Commission's climate change strategy is focused to make Europe a net zero emitter of greenhouse gases and become climate neutral by 2050 by introducing all kinds of mechanisms like carbon border adjustment, which is a carbon tax on emission for high carbon imports, particularly from those countries lacking sufficient greenhouse gas reduction measures of their own. European importers are going to statutorily be required to make a CBAM declaration with the quantity of goods and the embedded emissions in those particular goods. A sustainable products policy is also projected to be introduced, which will focus on reducing the wastage of materials, particularly and specifically focus on our industry, on textiles. Friends, the European Green Deal takes place in 2026, with the reporting starting in this year itself, 2023, and hence it's high time for India to gear up. The time to act is yesterday. AEPC as an export promotion council, I should add, as a responsible export promotion council, appreciates the growing consumer awareness, appreciates the national and international imperatives towards a greener, towards a more sustainable world, and we have taken various steps to strengthen this. The following steps, Dr. Tamanna very briefly talked about, and I'll just briefly elaborate, is we announced a grand launch on the 2nd of November 2022 of an initiative very aptly named called ISA. We're going to show the way, and ISA dikhayenge, which stands for the Apparel Industry Sustainability Action. The initiative aims at evaluating the existing status of Indian garment industry, encouraging wider penetration of the measures of sustainability, giving each member a scorecard, which will be certified and presented on a very, very good user interface. This will help enhance the brand visibility of the participants and also encourage adoption on a global platform. And today, we are so delighted to announce our collaboration with BSL for taking ISA forward in the form of the webinar series being launched, followed by road shows across 5 major garment clusters. The capacity building is going to follow from this. We're going to have sustainability awards as a very important part of our initiative. So as I mentioned, we are here to stay. These road shows and this webinar series will result in a sustainability compendium, which will be published, which will showcase the efforts made by AEPC members or the initiatives on environmental, social, and governance on ESG strategies to the global industry fraternity. And we are truly grateful to BSL who have collaborated with us towards this initiative. We need some hand-holding along the way. And my special thanks to our esteemed speaker of the day, Ms. Dipali Goenka, who have taken out time to kickstart this much needed initiative. And as you all know, Wellspun is one of the leaders in India, and I dare say internationally, in this sustainability initiative. I am sure with the concerted efforts of all the stakeholders involved, AEPC, government, brand, retailers, manufacturers, with support from esteemed organizations such as yours, the Indian garment industry will be able to make its mark on sustainability. Thank you very much, and over to Ms. Dipali Goenka.
Okay, thank you, sir, for such encouraging words and also explaining the path that AEPC and BSL have taken together today. Before I invite our esteemed chief guest and speaker of the day today, I would like to put on records a special thanks to the BSL team, Mr. Raman, who had come to AEPC and taking this whole drive forward. Mr. Vipin Kaneja, he's been working day and night to make this whole initiative a very web series and all the entire technology support towards the back end. The video film was made in such a short and a very emphatic video that has come to you. So thank you so much, team, and we continue this endeavor together, taking this initiative forward. I would request the next speaker, very eminent speaker, friends, Ms. Dipali Goenka, and followed and moderated by Ms. Tanuja Sinha Roy. It's my honor to introduce Ms. Goenka, who's a proud MD and CEO of the India's largest home textile exporter, friends, for the past 12 years. I mean, she's an eloquent leader who transformed the home textile business with her innovative ideas and set up an enterprise. And we are so proud to hear from an alumna of the Harvard University what they've done to reach the Forbes Asia's 50 power business women and the most powerful woman in business by business today, most influential woman in India by business world, and many more feathers in our cap. We are very happy to hear from you, ma'am. What has changed the landscape of textile manufacturing in the country, and how would you encourage the industry to understand why sustainability is so important for the Indian garment industry? Why is it now or is it never? I leave the forum to Ms. Tanuja Sinha, who's a founder Swatantra brand and also president North Division of BSL. And she's entirely devoted her life to achieving great success in this area. Tanuja, we're very happy to introduce you as an achiever who's attained great success at highest levels on global scale and variety of field. And we want today that you should thread this whole event with your vision, with your brilliance, passion, and work ethics. And I'm sure you're being a great moderator. Tanuja, over to you to take the session forward with this Dipali.
Thank you, Tamanaji. I think after all of the great speakers that we've heard today, I think it's been a great kickstart. It's absolutely an appropriate discussion, and I'm very glad that AEPC and BSL together could work and make this, as Mr. Swami said, it's an important discussion to be had in all boardrooms and all sustainable for the world to kind of see us. And as the video kind of clearly said, that textiles is one of the most polluting, we're not very proud of this statement, but it is one of the most polluting industries, and world's looking at India to see how a lot of the growth in the sector will come from India. How do we imbibe these ways of life to be sustainable, not only in the environment, but also socially and economically? How do we take India forward in making a choice for the buyers, the perspective of India, how that changes? We at Swatantra, we are pushing a lot of the handloom, which Mr. Swami kind of mentioned. It is slow fashion out there. We supported thousands of weavers to make sure that women empowerment, the handloom, the way it is set up, the designs, the way they're made, they're very sustainable for the environment. Of course, being e-commerce, packaging plays a big role. So these are all happening at the grassroots, but I'm very happy to have been joined by Dipali, who's a visionary. I've had the good fortune of actually working very closely with Dipali, and I know when sustainability was never a buzzword as it is today, she was always a champion for it, herself as well as her company. So we're very thankful that Dipali, you could take out the time and speak about this very important topic, and kind of give inspiration to a lot of the grassroots people and all of the other manufacturers of how sustainable ability has to be taken as a way of life. So over to you, I think, and then we'll start with the questions.
So thank you, BSL and AEPC, for inviting me. And I'm absolutely honored to be here. And Tanuja and Tamanna, I think, thanks for that introduction. Mr. Nair, thank you for that respect. I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to this discussion today, because I feel this is going to be the only way that the textile industries will need to work, and not only textile, it's going to be the global supply chains across the world. This is a reality. Without this, we are absolutely moving towards a complete upheaval of everything, all our resources, everything as well. So I'm eager to, to Tanuja, to your questions, and over to you. Thank you.
Okay, I think one of the questions which I think most people would have is, what are the key sustainability initiatives that you've taken at WellSpun? Would love to know more about it.
So first of all, I think, let me just say that, the climate change is a reality that we spoke about, and everybody's been talking about it. World Economic Forum in 2022 actually listed climate change and biodiversity among the top 10 risks the world is facing. If I look at India, our PM, has taken on a goal of net zero goal by 2070. Looking at what we are doing, we've already installed 60 gigawatt solar energy capacity, which will be used, which is 13% of the consumption that India will need. Now, when I come to WellSpun, and I must just tell you something here in my story here. 2003, we set up a plant in Anjar, which actually got devastated by an earthquake. And every organization has a journey. And for us, we started a plant in 1993 in Vapi. But 2003, when we started a plant in Anjar, which in Kutch, the run of Kutch, if you guys all know, we as an organization took a call and decided that businesses will need to be the agents of change. And that's what we started working towards. So when we got into Anjar, we started looking at the communities. But now, today, when I look, now, which is like 2023, we actually are looking at the entire ecosystem of ESG. Now, when I look at environment, I think for all of us at textile, we know that water is the biggest, we use the maximum water at WellSpun and Anjar. We use around over 30 million liters of water every day. And imagine in that arid part of the country where there's no water available, if a textile company like us starts using that much of water, what is going to be impacting that community and the ecosystem there? So we set up the first STP plant, sewage treatment plant for textiles there. We take the water from the communities and we pay the royalty to the communities. We recycle and not even use a drop of fresh water in our operations. So the farmers are getting water for irrigation and the communities are getting water for drinking. Another thing is green energy. And we must know, and everybody tells us that sustainability is going to be expensive. But believe me, to everybody here, sustainability is the only means of sustainable operations and the only way of doing business viably. If I look at green energy today, we all know last year what happened to the whole energy basket. We saw the crude, we saw the coal, and we saw how the mega upheaval happened there. Now, looking at green, and WellSpun is going to go completely green by actually earlier, we put in a goal for 2030, but by 2027, WellSpun India will be completely green. We're setting up a 30 megawatt green solar power at Anjar, a hybrid at Vapi with wind. So, and also with biomass. So definitely that's going to be a very big role that we're going to play. I think the social initiative, touching the lives. We are now touching 200,000 lives. Somebody talked about the farm to fashion, the entire supply chain. I think the farmer is an integral part of that supply chain. And we need to look at how we are working with them. And all here, I know we're talking about the apparel industry here, but with us in home textiles, and we know India, we are the maximum producers of cotton, highest maybe now. So how are we working with the farmers? We actually are working with over 50,000 farmers and 125,000 farm workers across Wardha, Nakatrana, and Telangana. Our people are there on the fields, teaching them best farm practices, AI way of doing businesses, and seeing how we can grow cotton more sustainably. Today at Wellspun, we are using around 50% sustainable cotton. So while, Tanuja, these are the initiatives that we are taking, the social part is very key to our heart, the communities that we talked about. And I think somebody talked about handloom. So where we are in Kutch, I think craft is a very key thing that, that is a very, for the livelihoods. We actually recycle the rags that get generated in a scrapyard. We upcycle it. And that is being used by these women on the pit looms to make cushions and rugs out of it. Women operate their own bank accounts and the children are going to school. So imagine that whole circularity not just doesn't work in the fabric, but it works in the ecosystem, the whole economics, the whole commercial of the whole environment out there. Then how motivating is that? So, I mean, these are few initiatives that we're taking, and education. And India, we know, till 2047, we are the youngest population across the world. And when we say that, IT is employing maximum, no, it's the textiles that employs the maximum people after agriculture. And it's the blue collar associates and the grassroots that we owe a responsibility to. So what are we doing about them? I think upskilling them, teaching them education, vocational training across in our communities. We reach out to over 50,000 people in our communities for digital education. Vocational training is a very key part of what we do. But I think this is just something that we always feel at Wellspun, that we want to be the beacon at the textile front. We want to lead by an example. So one thing for us is that we hold ourselves accountable. So our goals for 2030 are completely laid out by us. We get measured by an ESG compass, and we report it back to our board every month. And also, I mean, we basically are, we have a board for ESG. We have a board of independent directors who actually look at it and review it independently as well. So this is what we are doing, Tanuja, at the moment.
That is fantastic. I think just hearing, what has been happening at Wellspun just give me goosebumps. I think there's a lot happening over there in terms of water. Socially, I visited your impressive plant, and I remember all the rags and the circularity that you've people are talking about today. You've, employed so many women workers to actually make use of that wastage. So I think that is something which a lot of the exporter, people who've joined in can take back as initiatives that they can drive at, whether at small levels or larger levels. So very happy to hear that. Dipali, you did mention your, you report the BSG ratings and things to your board every month, which is the change we love to see in all the other companies. So where do how do you perform in the ESG rating and ranking as far as Wellspun's concerned?
So I think I must tell you, last year, if you know, you must be familiar with the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. So last year we were at 48. This year we are at 59. And we have gone up by 11 points. And we would be in the top 5 in the whole textile value chain across the world. But that is not it. Now the journey from 59 to where we want to be, to over 79 and 80, where you see LVMH and the other players across globally. I think it's going to be a long one. And what is going to be important here, Tanuja, and I think I must tell you, I think all of us here have an ecosystem of MSMEs, right? Whom we work with, these small MSMEs. How are we going to get them in our ecosystem? How are we going to hold them accountable? Because we are talking about just the scope 1 and scope 2. It's also going to be the scope 3. So so that's something we want to really look at working towards as well. So first of all, starting with green energy, I think a solar panel on their sheds, how we can look at them, hold them accountable for that could be important. We also have a platform called SEDEX, which actually has them come on board, because the minute they come on board, all the compliances are done and it becomes a complete transparent ecosystem. So when you talk about sustainability, you will also talk about traceability. You'll also talk about blockchain here. And that is only going to be the way we're going to be looking at. We've already seen that, right? I mean, for us in home textiles in China, when the whole Xinjiang cotton issue happened, everybody wanted traceability. From the farms to ginning to our mills. So how would that be achievable? So it is it's like one step at a time, but I think that's the only way we can work with. And I think working with MSMEs, making 3 goals, just 3 goals that are part of your initiatives, educating them about what are those important things that we are doing, could help them, and evaluating them accordingly. We are also just starting that journey. In fact, we also have an ancillary park next door to our factory, which is just 1 or 2 kilometers away from our factory, where we have packaging vendors, we have spinning, we have our cardboard, all trims, all being made there. So it also reduces our carbon footprint there as well. So these are the things that we continue doing here. I mean, we got rated by Crystal, also, and, and the ratings were pretty decent as well, the 63. So I think there's lots we are doing here, Tanuja, and lots more to be done. I think this is just the beginning of what we have to do.
No, absolutely. I think it's now or never, with the explosion of, the requirements of the world and how how the world is looking at India now. It is a great responsibility that we all have to work. But I do feel that there's a lot of suppliers out there and manufacturers who do think that sustainability is expensive. It just kind of adds to their cost. And you did touch upon that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as to how did you achieve with very limited expense to your bottom line.
So I think, Tanuja, when we set up a plant, we all have a plan of the, we put in our books a complete, that there's a debt, but we also have the 3 years plan of how we're going to look at our, production and everything. Now, when we talk about sustainability, it's front-ending initiative. Now, if we even taking that water that gets recycled, we're saving the cost in water now. Now, when we talk about green energy, and if you're going to make that, you'll not be paying for the coal, and you're not going to be paying for the kind of steep prices that happen, and it makes the whole thing dynamic. Now, when we work with these farmers for the cotton, educating them, we'll get a better quality of cotton, better productivity. Better, educating that entire supply chain. When you're working with so I think, Tanuja, these are front-ending investments that we do. But if you look at your payback, as you do in your projects, you got to treat them like that. But you will look at it, your payback will be maximum in 2 years. And that is definitely the way that we should be looking at it. Your prices are going to be, that we're all looking at the inflation in a big way. Sure. Energy is going to be not sustainable. It's entirely dynamic. And we all know how we faced it last year. We saw cotton, commodity, how that went through the roof. Now, even water. Every ecosystem has a water, the minimum, kind of charges that you have that continue to grow every time. Water also becomes a scarcity, right? Water is also becoming scarce. How are you going to sustain your ecosystem and your whole operations if you don't make it? So truly, I always believe that sustainability is sustainable. We got to look at it very, very differently and see how we can, work that towards.
No, absolutely. I think that's very important because most people have, they think it's too expensive. Let the biggies do this, and it's a whole ecosystem. And I think these are very inspiring words. If there's any advice that you like to give to the people listening in, what would that be?
So I would say time is now, and we need to start on it today, as of yesterday. But I think getting to share the best practices together, if anything is needed, we could work together. And I think you guys have started this great community here. And if we can start working towards how we can, make this happen, I think, Tanuja, this can start off. And it is going to be small steps at a time. I remember, even in the terms of the social bit, we were at 8% women, when I started. And today we are 30% women.
Wow.
But it is not just about women in diversity. You got to embrace especially abled. You got to embrace diversity in the true sense. And that's why when you talk about the journey towards 5 trillion GDP as a country, the 50% of our population needs to work with us. We have to embrace them, right? So I think, Tanuja, one step at a time, and how, if we could learn from one another, we could see how, we could, step in and step up everywhere and hold ourselves accountable. The interesting thing, and I think Mr. Swaminathan talked about Europe, Mr. Nair spoke about it. I think it starts from Europe, where they have already started evaluating companies and the way they are looking at initiatives sustainably, right? And I think that's the way. And when the stock exchange and the street starts recognizing it, it's going to be very important for each one of us to shake ourselves up to make that a very integral part of what we do. CBAM is something that we all know is going to be, coming in right across. How are we going to look at the entire ecosystem and the global supply chain? How are we going to evaluate? The fuel is going to go green. From the point of sale of the customer to the end to the manufacturing to your ecosystem of your MSMEs. I think everybody has to be looking at how we're going to be evaluating everything, and it has to be measured. And I think all of us have to own it. And, if I say it, it doesn't work with me alone. It is the whole ecosystem of mine that is working towards. All my N-1 and N-2 are evaluated on what is the sustainable methods that they're taking. And we have a program called,
please go ahead.
I have a program like Manthan, which is at a Blue Collar Associates. Any new initiatives, because, we feel that they're closer to the machines, they're closer to the processes and operations. They are the best people to tell you what are the kind of things and improvements that you need. And that is what we are doing. And we also have now the AI, Industry 4.2. So the pinter on the spinning, you have Tendra on your processing, data log on your weaving. So we are measuring our indexes even in steam. If the steam index goes up, we correct it immediately as well. So these are the things that we are working on as well.
That is fantastic to hear. And, this would be India, as I think as a culture, like Mr. Swaminathan mentioned, we were always sustainable. The question is from a buying, perspective, I think a lot of the buyers, whether it's there in Europe or US, I think we haven't been able to build that perception of India as a sustainable choice. I think we don't have to be struggling to get there. We have to do it for the most populous country. We have to do it for our own people, as well as kind of make sure that it is the world recognizes India for the sustainable fashion that we kind of give them. So if you had to give one more message to the buying team, the BSL group, Dipali, what would it be?
I think I will just tell everybody that it's not just about the product that you make, which is, sustainable. It is the whole ecosystem that is sustainable. That needs to create that product. And I feel that if we can encourage our, ecosystems like our suppliers, our MSMEs, our teams to work towards it, it's going to work. And definitely small steps at a time. But this is a reality. It is knocking at our doors, and we need to react now. Action is now. And we must take that today.
I totally agree with that. I think a small step by BSL and AEPC was to kind of kickstart this initiative with you, and hearing what all has been happening at Wellspun, and how you're leading and inspiring others to do the same has been fantastic. I thank you for your time, Dipali. We'll always be in touch to kind of learn, deeper about what's really happening, and how do we together, make sure that your perception of India changes. We also know that in COVID, we quickly learned, somebody was mentioning COVID taught us a lot of things. One of the important things was environment heals very quickly as well. So it's now or never. It's a small steps, but we know that when we take steps, the environment or the Mother Nature kind of responds to it quickly. So it's important that we take that. And thank you again. I would request Tamanna ji to take this discussion forward. Thank you, Dipali, again.